Donald Trump, dressed in a sharp navy suit and his signature red tie, stepped out of his car onto a busy New York City sidewalk. The winter wind nipped at his face as he adjusted his coat. This was supposed to be an ordinary day, just a lunch meeting with some business leaders at a high-end restaurant. But fate had other plans. As he walked toward the restaurant, something unusual caught his eye. Across the street, a man sat slumped against a brick wall, bundled in layers of tattered clothing. A handwritten cardboard sign rested on his lap. Homeless veteran. Hungry. Anything helps. Trump paused mid-step. His security detail hesitated, unsure of what he was doing. He glanced at the man for a moment longer before crossing the street, ignoring the murmurs of onlookers. "Sir, can I ask your name?" Trump asked, his tone direct but not unkind. The man looked up, his face weathered and his eyes filled with quiet pain. "John," he muttered. "John Anderson." "John," Trump said, crouching slightly to meet his gaze. "You served this country?" John nodded, his voice cracking. "Marine Corps. 8 years. Afghanistan, Iraq. Came home, but things didn't work out. Lost my job. Lost everything." For a moment, Trump was silent. He'd heard stories like this before, but standing here, face to face with someone who had sacrificed so much, the weight of it hit differently. That night, Trump couldn't get John out of his mind. At the dinner table with Melania, he brought it up. "There's this guy, a veteran, sitting out in the cold. He served our country, and now he's forgotten. It's wrong. It's just wrong." Melania, always his sounding board, suggested, "Why don't you help him? Do something more than just feel bad." The next morning, Trump called his assistant. "Get me details on housing programs for veterans in New York. And find John Anderson. I want to talk to him." A few days later, Trump met John again, this time at a local coffee shop. John was hesitant, unsure of why a billionaire cared about him. "Why are you doing this?" John finally asked, his hands wrapped around a steaming mug. Trump leaned forward. "Because no one should be left behind, not someone who put their life on the line for this country." They talked for hours about John's time in the Marines, the struggles he faced after returning home, and how the system had failed him. By the end of the conversation, Trump had a plan. The next week, Trump made headlines. At a press conference, he announced a new initiative. Veterans First, a promise kept. It was a comprehensive program to provide housing, job training, and mental health support for homeless veterans. But it wasn't just talk. Trump made it personal. He shared John's story, not to shame him, but to shine a light on the issue. "This man is a hero," Trump said, placing a hand on John's shoulder. "And heroes deserve better." Behind the scenes, Trump worked tirelessly. He pulled strings, called in favors, and personally funded the first phase of the program. Within weeks, John had a place to stay, a modest but warm apartment in Queens. John's life began to change. With a stable home and support, he started to rebuild. He attended job training sessions and began counseling to address the scars left by war. But he didn't stop there. John wanted to give back. He started volunteering at a local shelter, sharing his story with other veterans who had lost hope. "If I can come back from this," he told them, "so can you." The story didn't end with John. Trump's program expanded, helping hundreds of veterans across the country. News outlets picked up the story, and soon people from all walks of life were inspired to get involved. 1 year later, at a gala honoring the first anniversary of the Veterans First initiative, John took the stage. Clean-shaven and confident, he stood before a crowd of politicians, business leaders, and fellow veterans. "A year ago," he began, "I was sitting on a cold sidewalk with nothing but a cardboard sign. Today I have a home, a job, and a purpose. And it's all because one man decided to stop and see me. Not as a statistic, but as a human being." The audience rose to their feet, applause echoing through the hall. Trump, seated in the front row, nodded. He wasn't one for emotional displays, but in that moment, his expression said it all. The story of John Anderson and Donald Trump became a beacon of hope. It reminded people that small actions could spark big changes, and that sometimes all it takes is one person choosing to care.